Donald Trump anxiously awaiting the jury's verdict in this very high stakes criminal trial today. Judge Juan Merchan, he's overseeing the very tense proceedings right now, where Donald Trump's defense team, led by Todd Blanche, is bracing for pretty much any development at this point. Critics are very vocal with some of these folks calling the Trump's trial jury's instructions process just completely nuts. It's crazy. Meanwhile, you've got Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg's role and, of course, the media's portrayal of this particular case, stirring up a lot of controversy here. We've actually heard from Curtis Houck of NewsBusters calling this thing liberal media bias. We're going to break that down in just a second. They've been getting away with murder. And as Donald Trump's battles in court continue, President Joe Biden is launching a very desperate bid to reclaim dwindling black voter support, unveiling his very frantic outreach campaign in key battleground states. You've got Quentin Fulks, Biden's campaign manager. He's emphasizing their urgent need to earn every vote. Meanwhile, Donald Trump's recent New York City Bronx rally underscores his growing appeal among minority voters. We're talking black voters, Hispanic voters, Indian, Asian voters. Donald Trump's getting the support in spite of this Joe Biden witch hunt. Now, with the economy at the forefront, and of course, Donald Trump versus Joe Biden's poll numbers slipping, the Biden-Harris team is scrambling to deploy some historic investments and some targeted engagement. But the question is it too late? Did you already burn your voters? Have they already lost faith? Now, before we really get into this, guys, all I ask is that you guys hit the like button for the video. I totally appreciate you. I also want to thank y'all for sharing the video. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for hitting the join button. You guys are absolutely amazing. Sorry. Keenan Ripon, what's going on, guys? We've got Dennis Clark, Dina. We've got Kyle Cummings in here, Carol McCarty, Terry Hubbard, Deborah, Melissa Fountain. Awesome. So it's Thursday, guys, and the jury continues their deliberations in the New York criminal trial of former President Donald Trump. And this is actually marking the second day of deliberations, the second day of discussions. Donald Trump is still required, unfortunately, to attend the trial, even though there's really no court proceedings taking place. Judge Juan Merchan has instructed the jurors not to research or even discuss the case overnight. Now, here's the thing. You can't stop a jury from, using their phone, being on social media, looking at the news. You know what I'm saying? The jury, I mean, heck, they may even be watching these YouTube videos for all I know. Anyway, the jury, they're deliberating on the case for the second day, and there's no set timeline. There's no set timeline, but a verdict could be potentially reached as soon as this afternoon, today on Thursday, May 30th. In fact, I believe the jury actually comes back in the courtroom 7 minutes ago. It looks like about 7 minutes ago at noon, 12 p.m. today. Donald Trump and his defense team, led by Todd Blanche, must be present during these deliberations in order to respond to any kind of notes or requests from the jury. In fact, there was a jury request yesterday asking to rehear some of the testimony and judge instructions. So, but anyway, Donald Trump is currently in the courtroom. He's waiting to hear if the jury needs any kind of instructions read back to them. Some, including commentators, have criticized this process. Now, one particular viewpoint that was expressed said, quote, "Frankly, it's nuts in my view that the jury is not given the instructions and must have them read back to them. It serves no purpose, no productive purpose, no positive, so folks are upset about this. And I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys are upset about what they're doing here. This is completely un-American here, guys. But as the trial nears its conclusion, Donald Trump's Democratic opponents, they're benefiting from this extensive media coverage. It's wild what these folks are doing here. It is absolutely, absolutely wild. But we do have Jonathan Turley live on the scene, who I'm going to let you guys hear from Jonathan Turley in just a moment. But It's like, it's wild what they're doing here with the news media. They're leveraging Donald Trump. Biden's benefiting from him, kind of, but not really. But as the trial nears its conclusion, Democratic opponents, they're literally benefiting from extensive media coverage on major news networks. And you guys are seeing this. I mean, according to the Media Research Center, the MRC, you got ABC News, NBC, CBS. They've all given significant attention to the trial ever since the jury selection began on April 14th. But get this, MRC NewsBusters found that in over 640 minutes of trial coverage across all of these news networks and more, Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg was rarely identified as a partisan Democrat. Now you got to wonder why. They're trying to make it seem like this is a fair trial and Donald Trump is guilty. They are twisting this story so bad, it's unreal. It's completely unfair. Curtis Houck, he's the managing director of NewsBusters, criticized the media's handling of the coverage, saying that these numbers show not only a liberal media bias, but a journalistic ineptitude. In any story, you want to answer the basics: who, what, when, where, why, and how. So if you leave out the fact that Alvin Bragg, who's the district attorney over, who's presiding or the prosecuting attorney over this Donald Trump hush money trial case with Stormy Daniels in New York City, if you leave out the fact that Alvin Bragg's got a partisan affiliation to the Democratic Party, or that he campaigned in part on bringing down Donald Trump, it's shoddy at best and it's deceptive at worst. Now, Houck also argued that the networks aim to damage Donald Trump regardless of the facts, basically stating no matter how overwhelmingly voluminous their coverage gets. Now, in short, basically, the jury in Trump's New York criminal trial, they are continuing their deliberations with a potential verdict expected any moment now. Not guaranteed to be today, but it is expected any moment. So it could be this, like as early as this afternoon, but it's not guaranteed. It really just depends on how many more questions the jury has. But Donald Trump remains in the courtroom. There's been significant media coverage regarding this trial, but I want you guys to hear from Jonathan Turley, who's standing just outside Donald Trump's courtroom. Take a listen.
Jonathan Turley is live outside the courthouse, as he's always been over the last 6 weeks in Lower Manhattan. First off, Jonathan, what do you read from the two requests from the jury, the two notes from the jury, one on clarifications on the rules, the one on reading back David Pecker's testimony?
Well, this really makes reading tea leaves look like an established science. We're all speculating. I was a little surprised to hear on another network that this was good news for the prosecution. I don't see how you could say that. The most likely scenario that I had in the courtroom was this may all be about Michael Cohen. It would be a natural thing for the jury to go in there and just say, what are we going to do about Cohen? Are we going to give his testimony any weight? Because he is 99% of this case. And when that was raised, it's possible that someone said, look, the judge said if he lied on any material fact, we should ignore him on all facts. And another juror may have said, well, I don't remember saying that we had to do that. That would explain the request for the instructions again. But it would also explain these particular transcript segments, because what the judge said is Michael Cohen has to be considered an accomplice. And as an accomplice, you have to take even more concern over his testimony. He needs to be corroborated. And if that came up, they'd say, where's the corroboration? It so happens that these are the portions of the transcript that the prosecutors highlighted out of the Trump Tower that they said corroborated Michael Cohen. I frankly don't think that's true. So that's one scenario. But what's clear is there's obviously a disagreement. You don't get a readback on an instruction if there's not a disagreement. So obviously they had a disagreement. That doesn't mean that it's a deadlock. It means that they said, let's just hear it again so we can cut to the chase on this.
What does your gut tell you where this is heading going into this weekend? It's Thursday already. They work Wednesday. We're looking at Friday. They're supposed to work again. What does your gut tell you about today?
The judge would like them to go to 6 today. It's possible. I always said that I didn't think there'd be a verdict yesterday. I would be more anticipating a verdict on Friday, but it's possible today. It's a long day. And so I still believe that the choice is between a hung jury and a partial conviction on some counts. I do think a hung jury has to be high up there, if not the more likely scenario, but we all don't know. The thing that you're looking for, obviously, is the note on a deadlock. But keep in mind that if the jury comes out on a deadlock, which would be great news for the defense, it's not the end. What'll happen is that the judge will then give what we say in the federal system is an Allen charge or modified Allen charge. And it's basically a 2x4 to the head of the jury. And it says, look, a lot of people spend a lot of time on this. You need to go back, do your job, listen to each other, reach a conclusion in the interest of everyone. As a defense,
That's basically like threatening the jury to come to a conclusion. Like that's not. I don't know. That just seems like beyond corrupt, in my opinion. I mean, you can't. How are you going to force a jury to come to a conclusion if they're not 100% sure of themselves? And you know, I mean, you've got someone's life at stake here. You got Donald Trump's life at stake here, based on what the jury comes to the conclusion of. But yeah, this is lawfare, folks. This is New York City. These are the DEI, the corrupt Democrats interfering with the election to an extent that we've never seen here in American history. President Joe Biden, though, is scrambling to reconnect with the black voters. A very, let's just say, crucial Democratic demographic is now slipping away from former president, is now slipping away from the current president, Joe Biden, and is actually rolling into the coffers of President Donald Trump. So according to some recent polls, in what appears to be a frantic effort, the Biden-Harris campaign announced just yesterday, a massive campaign announcement. Basically, they're going to be entering this spending spree to engage with black student organizations, community groups, and faith centers nationwide, ultimately focusing on some key battleground states. Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris, everyone's favorite, strong sarcasm, are very they're even set to speak at Philadelphia's rally for the inaugural Black Voters for Biden-Harris event. Now, Quentin Fulks, he's the principal deputy campaign manager. He stressed the importance of this desperate push. He stated that today's launch of the Black Voters for Biden-Harris coalition is another sign of our campaign's relentless fight to win every single vote. This coalition and the newly announced summer outreach programs marks the next phase of our campaign's unprecedented efforts to engage black voters. But in a bid to discredit Donald Trump, Fulks added, quote, "While we are diligently trying to earn Black America's support, Donald Trump continues his charade, hosting makeshift rap concerts to mask his lack of genuine engagement and resources for our community," end quote. Can you guys believe this? Makeshift rap concerts from Donald Trump. Lack of genuine engagement and support. I'm gonna let y'all go ahead and fester on that one. But anyway, so this whole frantic push from Joe Biden comes on the heels of a massive Donald Trump rally in the Bronx, New York, that drew around 10,000 attendees. We've heard numbers as high as 30,000 attendees. But Donald Trump hammered Joe Biden in conversations related to high inflation, which has hit Black and Hispanic families particularly hard. And really any demographic or family, household, individual with minimal assets were hit hard by this high inflation, and vowed to revive the economy if reelected. Now, here's the thing, a lot of folks are looking at Joe Biden and they're like, hey, Donald Trump didn't bring us this high inflation. You did, sir. And you promised us that you were going to take care of us. And, well, a lot of folks have been destroyed. A lot of households have been destroyed by record levels of inflation under the Biden administration. And folks are not happy. And they're like, hey, do I really want to double down on this guy who brought us, some of the worst economic conditions that we've experienced as of late? Or do we give this other guy a try, even though that they've historically voted Democratic? Maybe Trump deserves a shot. And I think that this is what's happening with the minority voters here. Now, Donald Trump's focus on minority voters in traditionally Democratic strongholds like New York, this really signals that his campaign's belief in Biden's vulnerability with key Democratic groups is real. Supporting this, there was a recent Fox News poll showed Biden with 72% support among black voters, which is a slight increase from February's 66%, but it still shows the 79% that he had before, but it's still well below the 79% that he had just before the 2020 election. So he's down a good 7 points still. And in November 2020, Fox voter analysis indicated that 91% of black voters backed Joe Biden. But here's Biden speaking at a recent campaign.
Because black Americans voted, Kamala and I are President and Vice President of the United States because of you. That's not hyperbole. Because you voted, Donald Trump has defeated former president. And with your vote in 2024, we're going to make Donald Trump a loser again. Maya Angelou said, when someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. You got it, kid. You got it. I've shown you who I am, and Trump has shown you who he is. And today, Donald Trump is pandering and peddling lies and stereotypes for your vote so he can win for himself, not for you. Well, Donald Trump, I have a message for you. Not in our house and not in our watch. And folks, the threat that Trump poses is greater in his second term than his first. It's clear that when he lost in 2020, something literally snapped in the sky. No, I'm serious. That's why January 6th happened, when he unleashed an insurrection. Now, he's running again, and he's clearly unhinged. He calls insurrectionists who stormed the Capitol patriots. Patriots. If reelected, he wants to pardon, quote, every one of them. Let me ask you, what do you think he would have done on January 6th if black Americans had stormed it? Think about this. What do you think would have happened if black Americans had stormed the Capitol? I don't think he'd be talking about pardons.
Wow. So Joe Biden here really trying to leverage the, trying to spark some racial tension here. If you listen to his rhetoric here, what do you guys think about this? I see Margaret Cotton saying Biden turns her stomach. Scott Hill says not going to happen. I see a lot of you guys not really feeling what Biden's saying here. We the people says laugh out loud. Biden will eat those words in November. Yeah. So, yeah. Yeah, you can't make this stuff up. But so a New York Times seeing a poll of 6 battleground states found that 76% of black voters rated the economy as fair or poor, with only 22% considering it to be excellent or good. So, a good vast majority of voters, black voters, are saying that the economy is fair or poor. It's not good when you're the incumbent president, depending on this particular demographic to keep you in the Oval Office. Now, the economy remains the top issue for black Americans, aligning with the broader population. Now, in response, the Biden-Harris campaign, they're desperately ramping up their outreach to black voters over the coming months. Besides the Philadelphia rally that he's at, but Biden, he will engage with black-owned small businesses in the city. That's what their plan is. And the campaign is going to be hosting events with national organizations and local community members focused on a direct voter contact, which we really haven't seen from Joe Biden. But this just kind of like shows the level of desperation that they're at, putting Donald Trump through these fake trials. Joe Biden finally deciding to go forward with this one-on-one debate against Donald Trump at the end of June. Actually, I think there's 2 debates scheduled. One's at the end of June. One is in October, if I'm not mistaken, which wasn't even up for discussion before. But since Joe Biden's so far behind in the polls and losing all sorts of minority support, desperate times call from desperate measures. And then, of course, just recently, you just heard Joe Biden is now going to be going into the communities, trying to drum up some support to drum up black votes. Typically, this doesn't happen. Typically Democrats, they got the black vote, they got the Hispanic vote in their back pocket. There's no need to try to really campaign for those folks' votes because they're like, we've got you guys sucking on the bottle. There's no need. You're already a guaranteed vote, so to speak. It's ingrained in the demographic psyche. But it looks like the tides are changing here, actually. So in a statement from the Biden campaign, it said, quote, "Black voters deserve to hear from their team Biden-Harris and have their votes earned, not taken for granted." Okay. They go on to say that we're making historic investments in black media and outreach, employing creative engagement strategies, culturally relevant content, and innovative organizing initiatives. No campaign has ever valued black voters like we do, investing earlier and with more resources than ever before, end quote. Some people just have short-term memory issues. This to me just looks like, look, we're desperate. We need you now. You've always been there for us before. We never bothered to even check on you guys, make sure you're good, make sure you're satisfied constituents. But now that we really need your vote, and now it's clear that we cannot just simply depend on you, now we're going to actually, provide the facade of support and concern. I call bull. I call complete BS. Just like the border situation, recent numbers have come out saying that the U.S.-Mexico border crossings is down dramatically. Well, why do you think why do you think that is? It's only because Biden's numbers have been just so deplorable recently that it's like, look, we got to do whatever we got to do to, shore up support. We may have to temporarily abandon some of these progressive ideologies in order to get some of these votes back. But that's the situation that Biden's in right now. But yeah, so in their desperation, the Joe Biden team has also accused Donald Trump of running on an anti-black agenda and patronizing black voters. So he's spending all of his resources on Donald Trump attacks rather than actually campaigning to a legitimate voter base and presenting a clear strategy, a clear plan that will actually make America greater again. So that's the desperation that the Biden-Harris campaign's in right now. That's the latest update on Donald Trump's situation at the courthouse. I got a lot more for you guys. If you haven't already, please do your boy a favor, hit the like button for the video, share this video with someone who needs to hear it with more like-minded folks. Consider subscribing to the channel, and I'm gonna catch you guys on the next one. Take care.